AITA for letting my cheating wife discover that her perfect man was just my trap? Hi, I'm Ashton, 31 years old, and I'm a project manager. I'm not rich, but I pay my bills, have a growing savings account, and rent an apartment in a good part of the city. Lydia, my wife, moved in with me a year ago when we both got new jobs. We'd been married for 2 years at that point. No kids, no rush. We had plans for the future, vaguely mapped out. Buy a house in a few years, maybe start a family when we were more financially stable. Our expenses were simple. Rent was $1,650 a month, utilities about $200, and groceries around $400. We used a joint card for shared costs like rent, bills, and groceries, and we each paid for personal things from our individual accounts. It prevented arguments about money because everything was clear. For me, systems are important. They keep everything in order. Lydia adapted to the city quickly. New job, new coworkers, new social life. I like seeing her happy. She's naturally more extroverted than I am. I enjoy a quiet night in. She likes meeting new people. So when she started mentioning a coworker named Jasper she got along with, I didn't think much of it. The way she described him, Jasper was the office funny guy, the one who kept morale high, told jokes, sent memes, and organized birthday cards. That type of person. Jasper and Lydia started going out with coworkers for happy hour, team drinks, she'd say, or group dinners. I didn't question it. New city, new job. It made sense to make friends quickly. I was glad she had people to talk to, since my own job wasn't exactly a social hub. But then comments started popping up that didn't sit right with me. Apparently, Jasper was making jokes about me through Lydia. They weren't direct insults, but things like, "Oh, Ashton doesn't go out much. It must be tiring keeping that couch warm." Lydia would repeat them to me like they were just simple jokes. I didn't react. What was the point? Then, Lydia started bringing home ideas she got from Jasper. Things about relationships, like how modern couples shouldn't be so dependent, how women should live fully before settling down too much. Nothing was directed at me at first, but I could already see which way the wind was blowing. Jasper would send her podcasts and videos about freedom in relationships and not letting anyone hold you back. She'd share them with me casually, as if it were just interesting content. I watched a few, typical internet stuff. Half self-help, half opinion disguised as truth. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be the controlling husband who gets upset because his wife has friends or new ideas, but I was paying attention. A few weeks later, Lydia started talking about a guy Jasper had introduced her to. Not in a meet my new friend way, but as if Jasper couldn't stop talking about him. Tall, fit, confident, a real man. The way she described him, it was obvious Jasper was idolizing him. Lydia said they all sometimes chatted in a group, and slowly she started mentioning him separately, saying he was funny, that he had good energy. At the same time, I noticed Lydia was texting more. She'd smile at her phone and angle it slightly away when I walked by. Nothing major, but enough to make a mental note. Then came the hotel charge. I was reviewing our joint bank statement one night because the power bill seemed higher than usual. And there, between the electric company and the grocery store, was a charge for a hotel about 10 minutes from our place. $142.89. The date matched a day Lydia had said she was working late. I asked her about it directly. She didn't flinch. She said it was for a work event, that some coworkers had booked rooms so they wouldn't have to drive back after a late night. I nodded. Okay, that was it. No argument, no accusations, but in my head, the pieces started fitting together differently. A week later, Lydia invited me to meet her team after work. I accepted. We met at a bar near her office with big windows and loud music. Jasper was exactly the type who talks first and never listens. He called me the quiet one before I even sat down. He asked me if I ever let Lydia have any fun, as if we were old friends sharing inside jokes. I smiled and said, I manage projects for a living. Fun is a resource, not a myth. Jasper laughed too loudly, like he needed everyone to notice. Lydia laughed with him. It wasn't cruel, but she didn't stop him either. I watched the others. Some coworkers looked uncomfortable and glanced away. Jasper kept throwing little jabs. Real men don't plan their whole lives on spreadsheets. I shrugged, ordered a water, and asked Lydia if she was coming back with me or taking a car. Jasper smirked with an air of victory. I filed it away in my memory. In the following days, Jasper started tagging Lydia in online posts, typical stuff about being independent and some memes about boring couples. Nothing directly at me, but close enough to be provocative. Lydia would react with laughing emojis. I didn't comment. I muted his account and took screenshots. Lydia's schedule started to change. More late meetings, more team dinners. Always on the same nights, Jasper would post pictures with location tags near their office. She said they were networking events. I'd reply cool and set a reminder to check the card statement at the end of the week. Notifications started popping up on her phone at home, names of group chats I didn't recognize. Jasper was always in them. The messages sounded more like a performance than work. Some men just don't know how to lead. Women shouldn't have to ask for things. Lydia would reply with emojis, so true, or haha. The tone wasn't professional. It was Jasper pulling the strings. The content started to escalate. Jasper sent her links about finding yourself, not settling down young, compatibility beyond routine. Lydia started quoting these phrases in small, unimportant arguments, like who forgot to take out the trash, or whether we should visit my brother next month. Suddenly, every trivial decision became a debate about freedom. It wasn't her way of talking, it was his. Lydia's appearance changed for these supposed meetings. A new blazer, new shoes, makeup on a Tuesday like it was a special occasion. She'd leave the house with the determination of someone going somewhere they considered important. I didn't comment. I checked the shared calendar. More blocks that just said, work stuff. Small charges started appearing on the joint card. Rideshare trips that started 2 blocks from Jasper's building. Dinners at places we'd never been. A charge at a store that sells travel-sized items. None of it was proof, but it was all pointing in one direction. Jasper kept hinting in the group chats about a friend of his. I saw it over Lydia's shoulder. My guy would treat you right. He's tall, confident, knows what he wants. Still no name, just pieces. The foundation before the walls. Then, Lydia mentioned him out loud. Maxwell. She said it like she'd just remembered, like it was a minor detail. Tall, fit, confident, very funny. Always the same 3 adjectives. She said he was sometimes in the group chat too. I nodded and asked if she needed the charger. She passed it to me without looking up from her phone. At that point, I didn't need intuition anymore, I needed data. So when she fell asleep, I used her phone to link WhatsApp web to my computer. 2 minutes to scan the QR code, and everything was there. Weeks of messages. Jasper setting the stage. Maxwell escalating. Lydia crossing lines that can't be uncrossed. The plan in motion. The hotel. What to say if anyone asked. I exported the threads, sorted them by date, and saved a clean copy. I checked her email. Then, I found the reservation confirmation for a hotel 10 minutes from our home. The same vendor name and the same amount I'd seen on the card, $142.89. The date matched one of those work event blocks on the calendar. She had added it herself. I didn't confront her. I set the boundary. The day came. Lydia came home early, showered. She took longer than usual with her hair. She wore a perfume she never wore to work. The outfit was planned. The bag was packed too neatly to be for just a team dinner. She stood by the door for a moment, as if she wanted to give me a speech. I didn't help her start it. I was at the table answering an email. My lunch plate already rinsed, the living room tidy. Everything looked like my life when I'm not chasing storms. Are you going out? I asked, just like I would on any normal day. Yeah, a team thing. I might not be back tonight, she said, looking at the lock, not at me. I nodded. Okay, just so you know, if you walk out that door for him, you're not coming back. It will be locked behind you. She didn't hesitate for long. I need this, she said. So get over it. Then go get it. I replied, turning back to my screen. She left. I finished my email, loaded the dishwasher, set the alarm, and slept without leaving my phone face up on the nightstand. Day 1, no contact. Day 2, nothing. On the 3rd day, my phone rang with an office number I didn't recognize. It was human resources from Lydia's company. A woman named Ariana asked if I could come in to talk about an incident. Her voice sounded tired, like she'd spent the morning in meetings. Sure, I said, and scheduled the time in my calendar. When HR called, I thought it would be about insurance paperwork or Lydia's benefits, but the woman said my name like she expected me to already know what it was about. I didn't. She asked me to come by after work to clarify a situation related to Lydia. I agreed. She gave no details over the phone, just the time, the meeting room number, and a rehearsed, polite tone. Lydia didn't send a single message that day. I went to work as usual. I finished my tasks, and at 4:30, I walked to her building 2 blocks away. The receptionist directed me upstairs. In the room, 3 people were waiting for me, 2 from HR and a manager I didn't know. Lydia wasn't there. The woman leading the meeting introduced everyone and then asked if I knew why they had called me. I said I didn't. She exchanged a look with the manager before clasping her hands. Some messages involving you were sent using company devices and servers. There was also a conflict in the office that turned physical. Since your name appears in those messages, we need to notify you and get context. I kept my face neutral. What messages? I asked. The manager explained that messages on the company's systems had come to light that mentioned my name and personal life. They didn't show me the chats, just summarized the relevant parts. That Lydia and Jasper used work devices to coordinate personal plans involving me, and that there had been a confrontation in the office after the deception was discovered. They asked if I wanted to offer any context for their records. I kept it simple. It sounds like my wife was planning to be unfaithful to me with someone named Maxwell, using your systems to coordinate it. That's all the context. The manager's jaw tightened as if he already knew, but had to pretend it was new. Then, the other HR representative added, there was a fight yesterday between Lydia and Jasper. It escalated quickly. Security had to intervene, which is why we're acting swiftly. What caused it? I asked. They looked at each other again. Then the woman said, the individual Lydia thought she was talking to doesn't exist. The photos, the messages, it was all fake. Jasper created him. I looked at her for a moment. So Jasper catfished her. Yes. And she found out here at work. When? Yesterday afternoon. Witnesses say it got ugly. There was property damage. They reviewed the messages that morning, and that led them to me, as I was mentioned repeatedly. I leaned back in my chair. Processing it wasn't the right word. I wasn't surprised, and I wasn't pleased either. It was more like silently watching someone else's bad movie when you already know the plot, because you read it online. Understood, I said. They asked if I wanted to add anything to their records. I pulled a thin folder from my bag, the hotel receipt, the card statement, and a printed log of the WhatsApp messages I had exported. Nothing graphic, just dates and names that matched what they already knew. This covers everything on my end, I said, sliding it toward them. The HR woman, Ariana, glanced at the first page, nodded once, and set it aside. They said the company would handle the internal investigation and that I was not expected to participate further. Lydia was suspended pending the process. So was Jasper. I stood up, shook their hands, thanked them for informing me, and left. Walking out of that building, I felt calm, like when you've already decided to quit and the boss finally announces layoffs. There's no surprise left, only the paperwork. That same evening, my phone vibrated. Unknown number again. This time it was Lydia. I'm outside. We need to talk, she said. I remained seated at my desk. You left, Lydia. You know the rule. That was the deal. Silence on the other end for a moment. Are you really not going to let me in? No, I said. You left for him. Can you talk to me from the same sidewalk you left from? She tried to argue, her voice rising about how I didn't understand, how she'd been humiliated, how Jasper had lied about everything. I let her talk, and then I said, you packed a suitcase before any of that. The humiliation came later. The decision came first. She started crying then, demanding that I listen to her side. Can you email it to me? I said calmly, just like HR. And that was that. She hung up. I closed my laptop, slid the deadbolt, and slept well. Lydia didn't call the next day. She sent a few messages, long texts, walls of words about how I didn't understand, how Jasper tricked her, how we could fix this if I would just listen. I didn't reply because the night she left with that suitcase, I told her what would happen. The door would be locked behind her, and it wasn't a metaphor. On the third day, she came back. This time she didn't knock, just called from the sidewalk, her voice tight, irritated. Are you serious? You're really going to ignore me like this? I was still at my desk with headphones on work calls. I told you the rule before you left. The same boundary applies today. This is my home too, she snapped angrily. It was, I said, clicking back to my spreadsheet. Past tense. Try the hotel. They have an easy check-in process. She cursed, said something about lawyers. I told her to bring one. The doors still wouldn't open. After a minute of yelling, she left. I continued with my normal life. Work, gym, grocery store. The apartment stayed clean. I slept well. On the third morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. It was Ariana from HR again. This time she sounded less rehearsed, more tired. She asked me to come back in. I said yes. When I arrived, they didn't even try to make small talk. There was a security guard present and a folder twice as thick as the last one. Ariana explained everything. Lydia had shown up at the office demanding that Jasper clear her name because the catfishing rumor had spread. Jasper refused, claiming she knew what was happening all along. There was a loud argument in the lobby. Employees filming on their phones. Lydia tried to grab his bag with his laptop, screaming that she had proof. Jasper pushed her hand away. Security intervened before it got worse. Apparently, half the department witnessed it. Company policy stated that any physical altercation meant immediate suspension pending investigation. Lydia was already suspended, and Jasper got the same treatment. The internal investigation confirmed Jasper had created multiple fake profiles using company systems, and it wasn't just with Lydia. There were other targeted employees. Now the legal department and the police were involved. Jasper hadn't just catfished Lydia. He had created at least 3 other fake accounts to manipulate 2 other employees, though they hadn't fallen for it. HR classified it as a pattern of harassment. I nodded as if they were reading me the weather forecast. Understood, I said. When I got back home, Lydia was waiting for me at the building entrance, arms crossed, wearing sunglasses, as if she could win an argument on attitude alone. You told HR everything, didn't you? She snapped. I raised an eyebrow. Everything like what? The hotel receipt you booked on our joint card, or the part where you packed a bag for a guy who doesn't exist? Her jaw tightened. This is humiliating for me. Yes, I replied, opening the door behind me. Running off for a ghost tends to do that. She moved as if to follow me, but I stopped her with a hand on the doorframe. Read my lips, Lydia. The door stays locked behind you. That means you don't live here anymore. You're unbelievable, she spat. I know, I said. I pay rent on time and don't cheat on people. Crazy world, huh? I closed the door and slid the deadbolt. She hit it once with her hand and stormed off. 2 days later, HR called me again. Jasper had been officially fired, not just for the catfishing, but for harassment, misuse of systems, and inappropriate conduct at work. Apparently, one of his fake profiles had crossed the line into stalking with another female employee. The legal department was reviewing charges. Lydia's file wasn't any better. Between the hotel plans on work devices, the public fights, and objects thrown in the office, the company terminated her contract with cause. That meant no severance and no references. Ariana's exact words were, "It's one of the messiest internal cases we've seen in years." I believed her. That night, Lydia texted me from a new number. "You ruined my life." I replied, "You packed the bag, Lydia. Jasper just didn't exist." She sent 3 more messages saying I was cold and heartless. I didn't respond because at that point, it was all simple math. She left, the door stayed locked, and everything else was just consequences piling up exactly where they were supposed to. After Lydia lost her job, things didn't quiet down like I thought they would. She wasn't living here anymore. The door was still locked. I'd made that crystal clear. But she started calling from different numbers, leaving long voicemails about how Jasper ruined everything and how I was cruel for not listening to her. I saved them in a folder named Complaints, right next to the hotel receipt and the emails from HR. A week after her termination, HR called me again. This time Ariana didn't sound tired, she sounded annoyed. "Just updating you," she said. Legal has confirmed multiple reports against Jasper from other female employees. They found fake profiles targeting 2 more women. He used company devices for all of it. "Criminal charges?" I asked. "They're being reviewed," she said. "Harassment, identity misuse, maybe more. The police have copies of the evidence." Apparently, Jasper didn't just catfish Lydia for fun. He had a whole hobby going. Fake numbers, fake photos, even a spreadsheet on his work laptop tracking who he was texting and when. HR said one of the women had already filed a restraining order after seeing the logs. Jasper thought he was playing some kind of brilliant prank. Now he had detectives reading his group chats. 2 nights later, Lydia showed up in front of the building again. This time she brought her sister for backup. I got a text. "We're downstairs. You owe me a conversation." I replied, "I'm pretty sure I don't owe you anything except an empty mailbox." Her sister texted me next. "Ashton, she lost everything. You could at least talk to her." I texted back, "She should talk to the hotel about refunds. The door is still locked." They didn't like that. Lydia yelled from the sidewalk for 10 minutes straight. I looked out the window once and said, "Careful, Lydia. The last time you screamed at a man in public, you lost your job." She left after that. Meanwhile, Jasper's world was collapsing faster than hers. The company pressed charges after closing their internal investigation, not just for harassment, but for misuse of computer systems, workplace misconduct, and data policy violations. I heard through someone from Lydia's old building that Jasper got arrested for refusing to hand over his personal laptop. The police got a warrant and confiscated it. Apparently, it had fake accounts created months back. His mugshot popped up on a local news site a few days later. "Employee charged in online harassment scheme." I felt nothing seeing it. I just saved the link in case anyone ever asked why Lydia lost her job. Lydia texted again after the arrest. "This is humiliating. Everyone knows now." I replied, "Actions have consequences. You chose yours." She texted back, "Are you enjoying this?" I told her, "No, I just stopped shielding you from the math you created." She didn't reply after that. While all this was happening, I focused on closing out the marriage. I canceled the joint streaming accounts, took her name off the utilities, moved half the savings to a new account in my name only, and started the legal separation process with a lawyer a coworker recommended. Clean, efficient, no drama. Lydia tried to delay things at first, texting that she needed time to process. My lawyer sent her copies of the timeline, the hotel booking, the HR emails, the termination notices, all dated and in order. She signed everything within a week. The divorce decree wouldn't come for several months. Most states have waiting periods, but with the separation, everything financial and legal was already settled. 2 weeks later, Lydia showed up one last time. She didn't call ahead, didn't text, just stood outside when I got home from work. "You really locked me out of my own life," she said, arms crossed. I shrugged. "No, you handed me the keys when you walked out for a guy who didn't exist." She glared at me. "You didn't even fight for us." "Lydia," I said, "you weren't kidnapped. You packed a bag, made a reservation, and lied about it. After that, there's no fight. There's only paperwork." She tried to step forward when I opened the door, but I blocked it with my foot. "The door stays locked behind you," I reminded her. "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "I know," I said. "I pay my rent, file my taxes, and don't cheat on people." Wild concept. She didn't look at me like she expected a big fight scene. I gave her nothing. Eventually, she left. That same day, HR sent me one last update. Jasper, formally terminated with cause. Lydia's termination, closed with no chance of appeal. Police investigation into Jasper ongoing. Ariana thanked me for my cooperation as if we'd just finished a project together. I filed the email with the others. When the final decree arrived, nothing between us had changed except the date on the papers. Friends would ask if I was angry, if I wanted revenge. I'd tell them, no, I wasn't angry. I was done. Big difference, because anger means you're still in it, and I was already out. The decree came 2 weeks after Lydia's last visit. Signed, filed, finalized. No arguments over money, no fights over furniture. She kept what she took that first weekend. I kept everything else. My lawyer sent the confirmation email with a single line in the subject. Case closed. That was all the closure I needed. Lydia tried one more time. She texted from another number, as if changing the digits would change the outcome. "We should at least talk like adults." I replied, "Adults respect boundaries. Try again in the next life." She didn't like that. She started sending long messages about how Jasper ruined her reputation, how her old job was still talking about the cup-throwing incident. I said nothing because none of it was my problem. She packed the bag. Everything that came after was just math. The next week, a coworker from Lydia's old department sent me a picture of a sign posted near the office, one of those HR bulletins about workplace conduct and harassment reporting. At the bottom, in small print, it said, "If you or someone you know was affected by recent events, resources are available through. They didn't mention Jasper's or Lydia's names, but everyone knew. Apparently, the company brought in a consultant to give a talk on appropriate workplace communication. I heard they made everyone watch a 20-minute video on professional boundaries while Jasper's mugshot circulated through the group chats. Meanwhile, Jasper's case moved quickly. The local news ran another story about the harassment charges after police found more fake profiles on his personal laptop. Some were years old. One of the profiles even used photos of a real person he'd lifted from social media. Detectives called it large-scale online impersonation. I just called it consequences. He had a court date scheduled for the following month. After that article came out, Lydia sent me another email. People are still asking if I was involved. This is humiliating. I replied, "You booked the hotel room, Lydia. He just didn't exist." There was no response after that. Around the same time, my building manager told me Lydia had stopped by, asking if she could get into the apartment while I was at work, claiming she'd left some things. He told her no, building policy, only tenants on the lease get keys. Apparently, she got upset and started yelling in the lobby. He handed her my lawyer's business card and left. That was the last time she tried to get in. I, for my part, moved on. I closed the old joint account completely, opened a new one in my name only. I changed the Wi-Fi password, the streaming platform passwords, even the Netflix profile icon she used. Not out of spite, I was just clearing the board. I replaced the couch we'd picked out together with one I actually liked. Changed the silverware set because, why not? Small things that made the place feel like mine instead of ours. One Friday night, I came home to find a letter taped to my door. It was from Lydia. The first line said, "I deserve a chance to explain." The second, "You're being cold and heartless." The third, "I know I made mistakes, but you didn't even fight for us." I didn't finish reading it. I fed it straight into the paper shredder I'd bought last month for junk mail. Nothing in that envelope could change the fact that she packed a bag for someone else. That was the line. It always would be. A week later, I saw Lydia one last time, by accident. I was grabbing coffee near the office when she walked in with her sister. She froze when she saw me. "Hi," I said. "You look happy," she replied. I took a sip of my coffee. "Yeah, boundaries help." Her sister muttered something about me being a cold guy. "Cold preserves things," I said, "like receipts." Lydia rolled her eyes and walked away. That was it. At the end of the month, the separation was fully processed. The new lease agreement had only my name. Utilities, insurance, bank accounts, all me. Friends would ask if I was dating. I said maybe. Truth was, I'd gone out to dinner a few times with someone from my building's accounting department. Quiet, stable, no complications. She didn't ask about the drama, and I didn't offer details. It felt good to leave the past in the past. The last I heard of Jasper was through a news link someone sent me. Former employee pleads guilty to online harassment charges. He got probation, fines, mandatory therapy, and a 12-month ban from using social media. Lydia's name wasn't in the article, but people knew. She later posted something on Facebook about starting over and focusing on personal growth. Good for her. It was no longer my business. When everything finally settled, I sat in my apartment one night and realized I hadn't thought about the hotel receipt in weeks. The $142.89 that started this whole mess, just a number on a long-closed credit card. So I deleted the folder with all the evidence, the screenshots, the emails, the receipts. Not because I forgave anyone, but because the story was over. Lydia left. The door stayed locked behind her, and everything else fell exactly where it was supposed to. Life got quiet very quickly after the paperwork was finalized. No more texts from Lydia, no more calls from HR, no police untangling Jasper's online circus. For the first time since I'd moved in, my apartment actually felt like mine. I started hitting the gym 3 nights a week, actually cooking instead of ordering takeout. I even picked up running again after years. It was a routine with no room for drama because there was none left, or so I thought. A few months after the divorce, I got home late from work. There was a car parked in front of my building I didn't recognize. Lights off, engine running. I thought nothing of it until I opened the door and heard rapid footsteps behind me on the stairs. Lydia, hair pulled back, eyes wide, holding a binder full of papers. "We need to talk," she said, breathing heavily, like she'd been running. I kept a hand on the doorframe. Bold move showing up unannounced. She shoved the binder at my chest. These are statements from people at my old job. Jasper lied about everything. I can prove it. I didn't take the binder. Lydia, Jasper is facing probation and fines. HR fired both of you. None of that is going to get your suitcase back inside my apartment. She blinked fast, like she hadn't heard me. You could tell people I'm not a bad person, that I was manipulated. I leaned against the frame. The hotel receipt shows you booked the room before the manipulation. Kind of ruins your argument. Her jaw tightened. You love humiliating me, don't you? I said. I just stopped helping you avoid it. She shoved the binder against my chest again. I let it fall to the floor. The door stays locked behind you, Lydia, I said. That includes today. She looked at me like she wanted a fight. I didn't give her one. After a long minute, she stormed down the stairs, muttering something about lawyers she couldn't afford. I picked up the binder. Every page was about Jasper. Nothing changed the fact that she packed that bag on her own. I fed it straight into the shredder. 2 weeks later, the drama found me again, but this time it wasn't Lydia. Jasper's case made the news one last time when his sentence came out. Probation, fines, a 12-month social media ban with device monitoring. The judge called his behavior a calculated pattern of deceit. Reporters interviewed 2 of his other victims outside the courthouse. One of them mentioned Lydia by name, saying she ruined her own life chasing someone who wasn't real. That clip made the rounds on local social media. People tagged me in it like I needed the update. I watched it once in silence and closed the app. Lydia must have seen it too, because a few days later she showed up outside my work building. Just as I was leaving, there she was on the sidewalk, arms crossed. Did you see what people are saying about me? She demanded. I adjusted the strap on my backpack. Yeah, I saw it. Looks like free speech is alive and well. Could you defend me? She said. Tell them I'm not crazy. I raised an eyebrow. Lydia, you screamed at Jasper in a crowded lobby and threw a mug at his head. I'm pretty sure the video speaks for itself. She looked around as if hoping someone would come rescue her. Passers-by kept walking. You enjoy this, don't you? She snapped. No, I replied. Enjoyment takes effort. I'm just watching the weather. She didn't like that answer. She called me heartless again before storming off into a rideshare car that probably wasn't in her name. 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from an online reputation service. Apparently, Lydia had hired them to repair her digital footprint. They were asking if I wanted to provide a positive character statement for their records. I laughed so hard I almost dropped the envelope. I shredded it along with the previous binder. Meanwhile, my own life kept moving forward. I got promoted at work to lead a new project. Bigger team, better pay. I moved some of my savings into a down payment account for a house, because owning again was starting to sound good. I started dating the accountant from my building more seriously, no drama, no games, just dinner and normal weekends, with no police reports or HR calls involved. The last time I saw Lydia was in the grocery store 6 months after the divorce. I was getting coffee when she rounded the corner with a cart half full of cheap wine and frozen meals. She looked at me, looked at the woman I was with, and smiled that smirk of someone who wants the last word. I hope she likes spreadsheets and ultimatums, she said. I smiled back. She likes honesty. Big change, right? Lydia's smirk vanished instantly. She turned down the next aisle without another word. After that, silence. No calls, no letters, no surprise visits. Jasper disappeared from the news after his probation was up. Lydia stopped posting motivational quotes on Facebook. My building switched to digital key fobs, so even if she tried, she couldn't get past the lobby without a guest code. One night, I wiped the last of the files from my hard drive. The receipts, the chat logs, the hotel bill, all of it. Not because I forgave anyone, but because there was nothing left to save. She packed a suitcase for someone who didn't exist. I locked the door behind her. Everything else was just gravity doing its job. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.